Alright, so today we're going to be talking about Chapter 4, Lesson 1. This is called Powers and Exponents. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about what those two words mean, and then we're going to be looking at to see how we can actually change or what that exponent means as far as how we can start evaluating that. So first of all, let's look at this term here, 5 with a 3 raised up. So the 5... this is called the base. The 3, we call that the exponent. And this whole thing, we call this a power. Generally, how this is said is 5 to the 3rd power that's generally how we say this term here. So let's talk about what this actually looks like now. So we're going to focus on powers that start at 1. So I'm going to do 5 with a power of 1, or an exponent of 1. This simply means 5. If I have a 5 and an exponent of 2, this is now 5 times 5. So the exponent talks about how many times the base is multiplied together. So the exponent of 2 means our base, which is 5, is multiplied twice. To the term that we just talked about, 5 raised to the 3rd power, 5 to the 3rd power, which means 5 times 5 times 5. And so on and so forth. So every single time we increase the exponent by 1, we multiply by 1 more base. So from here to here, I multiply by 5. I increase the exponent by 1, so I multiply by 1 more base. Same thing here. I increased my exponent from a 2 to a 3, so I have to multiply by 1 more base. So that's one really important thing to keep in mind as we are going through this. So, example 1. It says, write each expression using exponents. So, for letter A, I have -1 and -1, which means my base is -1, because that's what's being multiplied together here. And I have 2 of them, so my exponent will be 2. Letter B. This one's a little bit more tricky to understand, but the thing that's being multiplied together is this 5x plus 1. Here's a 5x plus 1, here's a 5x plus 1. There are 2 of those terms being multiplied together, so my exponent would again be 2. Letter C. There are 3 things being multiplied together. 1/2, x, and y. Now, because there is only 1/2 here, I do not need to put an exponent there, because if you remember up here, 5 to the 1st power is simply just 5. So that 1 does not need to be there. So I'm not going to put it here. The next term being multiplied here is x, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. So I'm going to use an exponent of 4. And now I have 1, 2, 3 y's, so I'll use an exponent of 3. And that would be how to rewrite that expression using exponents. All right, so let's talk about using PEMDAS, or the order of operations with powers and exponents. So exponents and powers get applied right here. That is where exponents fit. So remember, P is parentheses, E is exponents, M and D is multiply and divide. Remember, those happen in the same step. Then we go from left to right. So this is same step, left to right. Same thing, A and S is addition, subtraction. And again, those are also in the same step. So we go from left to right as well. So exponents fit right here. So you need to be careful when you're doing order of operations that the exponent comes before multiplication, division, or addition and subtraction. So we'll go through a couple of questions like that as well. So example 2, it says North American hockey rinks are built according to NHL specifications. Evaluate each expression to find the following lengths. It says the distance from the goal line to the nearest blue line is 2 to the 6th power feet. This represents 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. The base is 2. Exponent is 6, so it gets multiplied 6 times. 2 times 2 is 4. Times 2 is 8. Times 2 is 16. Times 2 is 32. And times 2 is another 64. So this is 64 feet. And letter B, it says the length of the rink is 2 to the 3rd times 5 to the 2nd. So again, what we need to do is order of operations. Exponents come before multiplication. So 2 to the 3rd would be 2 times 2 times 2. And then 5 squared, or 5 to the 2nd, would be 5 times 5. So this right here is 2 to the 3rd. This right here is 5 to the 2nd. Exponents go first, so 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. 5 times 5 is 25. And 8 times 25 is 200 feet. So remember, you have to do order of operations through this process. Exponents come before multiplication. Let's turn it over. Example 3, we're going to be looking at how exponents comes before subtraction now. So, x squared minus y to the 3rd if x equals -5 and y equals 2. So, wherever I see an x, I need to put -5. Be careful. You must put these numbers in parentheses. And then minus 2 to the 3rd. The reason why you need to do that is because if you start using your calculator, you need to make sure that it goes in with parentheses. So if I have a calculator, let's use mine here. If I simply put in -5 squared, it's going to give me -25 out because the exponent comes before the multiplication. This negative sign is really a multiply by -1. So it does 5 squared first, which is 25, and then multiplies it by -1. So that now is -25. In order to do this correctly, you need to use parentheses. And then you would get your answer of 25. So if we look at this question now, this is -5 multiplied together twice, minus 2 multiplied together 3 times. So negative 5 times negative 5 is 25, minus 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, and 25 minus 8 is 17. All right, that is the end of lesson 1. If you have any questions, please let me know. And then we're done.